As my opening sequence is a hybrid of two genres, that being drama and suspense, I decided to analyze up to 2 to 3 movies within those genres to see whether I have used, developed, or challenged the forms and conventions within those two genres. I will also be seeing if I have used, developed, or challenged various other conventions within real media opening sequences to movies. In an opening sequence to a drama movie, there are some clear conventions. Long shots are often used to establish location. There are also commonly many scenic shots overlaid with soft sound. However, the sound used in a drama can be varied. Sometimes, more occasionally, there are longer sounds with violin and piano to add to the drama and appeal to the emotions from the viewer. It can be said that I have stuck to this convention of having scenic shots overlaid with piano instrumental music, as you can see from my song choice of To Build a Home by the Cinematic Orchestra. Which is a piano piece, and from the many scenic shots I've used of the house, the park, and the graveyard to establish location and setting. This can be shown now in a real media product. For example, in Requiem for a Dream, where this convention was followed. Throughout the opening shots, long scenic shots are used to establish location and setting. These shots show the protagonist transporting a TV across town. These shots are overlapped with the current music of soft melodic piano, which then changes to have a beat and a violin. This music appeals to the emotions and created a similar effect which I was trying to achieve. Therefore, it can be said that I developed this convention as I used this kind of music which appealed to the emotions throughout the first section of my opening sequence, the drama genre. In a drama, the characters are often characters which have relatable traits. This can be seen clearly within the example of a real media product, such as in the film of Another Earth, directed by Mike Cahill, with the character of Rhoda, a young 19-year-old girl just accepted into MIT. Through an opening sequence, seems like a young, relatable girl who many of the teenage audiences can relate to. Shown through the way she reacts to certain situations throughout the opening sequence, and the way she participates in normal activities which young teenage girls can relate to, such as going out with her friends at night and celebrating her recent acceptance into MIT University. I use this convention as the female protagonist I introduced is a relatable character for many teenage girls like herself. This is because she is seen getting a book for her homework, she looks bored and gets distracted on her phone when she goes downstairs to find the book. These things are commonly experienced by average girls. Therefore, my character is relatable, and I have stuck to the convention within the drama genre. Although the things she does, such as the location scouting the pictures, and the events that she does isn't common, the character herself is a typical girl character which is relatable. Another broad convention that can be taken from drama is that the colour palette of the shot generally reflects the mood, e.g. warmer colours to suggest a happier, friendlier environment and tone, whereas darker colours are used to suggest a colder and bitter environment. For example, in the film Black Swan, directed by Darren Aronofsky, the opening shots are very tense, and this is reflected in the dark colours and the lighting. Thus, the convention has been carried out here in this example. It can be seen that I've reflected this convention to some extent. At the beginning of my opening sequence, I used darker, more drained colours to reflect the main character as being dissatisfied and bored with her current life. When she notices the pictures and attends the park, however, I reflected the change in mood, not so much through the colour, rather through the change in pace in the music, which suggests a happier, more upbeat tone. This could be said to be counter-convention in this specific drama convention in the drama genre. The way I presented the titles of the names of the actresses, the editor, producer, and director was used in a way similar to real drama opening sequences. I used a thin and simple font. Often in dramas, simple plain fonts are used. This is because the focus is on the shots used and the narrative, rather than the font. Thus, it could be said that here I stuck to the drama convention. However, when I presented my font, I used contrasting colours to the shot at the time. The colour varied from black to white. This could possibly be counter-convention, as usually in opening sequence to a drama, the same colour of font is used throughout. As my opening sequence takes a different turn, at the beginning of the graveyard scene, there is a change of genre from drama to suspense and thriller. The suspense and thriller genre has much clearer cut conventions. For example, usually the soundtrack in thrillers insinuates build-up of tension. In the thriller genre, there is usually louder ambient sounds, such as the diegetic sounds as the wind howling, which build up to create the atmosphere and tension, as well as short piano notes and build up of drone sounds. It can be said that here I've developed and stuck to the sound convention, as when the protagonist enters the graveyard, the wind starts to get louder. The melodic sound that had been playing originally decreases in volume as suspenseful drone sounds start to build up and layer and get much louder to create tension and uneasiness. This leaves the viewer in high anticipation as to what he or she is about to see that seems to be so shocking from the build-up in sounds. Suspense and thrillers are also often set in mysterious places which are associated with death, unidentified, and dangerous places. It can be said that to some extent I've stuck to this thriller convention, as the scene takes place in what looks like an old, mysterious graveyard. Another convention of the thriller genre is that when the tension is at its highest, fast cuts are used, sometimes from the main central character to unsettling eerie shots, sometimes scenic to quicken the tension. A collection of montage shots is also sometimes used for similar effect. Here I've stuck to this convention, as throughout the mid-end of the graveyard scene, when she realises the pictures of herself on her father's grave, fast jump cuts were used from her shocked face to some extreme close-ups of the angel statues around the graveyard, accompanied with loud piercing sounds, to increase the impact. This is also a key technique used in thrillers to match the loud sounds with the beginning of the fast cut shot. It can also be said that my narrative in the second half of my opening sequence fits with the thriller genre. In the thriller genre, there is usually an antagonist who sometimes is unaware to the audience and then is established later in the movie, although it can be established in the opening scenes. It can be said that here I've stuck to this convention, as the antagonist is present and has been throughout the entire sequence, although not shown to the audience as they are unaware, and the audience are unaware, and is only made clear in the graveyard scenes. In a thriller, there is also a change in the angle of shots to either establish one of the characters as looking vulnerable and weaker, and one of them looking more powerful, or to distort the viewer to quicken the pace and uneasiness of the atmosphere. In this convention, I loosely stuck to it, occasionally using different angled shots of the characters, using low shots of the angels to establish them as low-angled close-up shots of the graveyard angels to show them as superior and intimidating, to try and build up this idea of supernatural and tension and suspense, and lower angle shots on the protagonist to make her seem vulnerable and weak and scared. However, it can be said that I was counter-convention, as in many thriller films, they usually have much darker and harsher colours. Some thrillers even go as far as to develop this convention by adding an entirely black and white effect. For example, in the movie Sin City, a thriller which is consisted of dark colours being black and white, however they do brush upon the red. Therefore, it can be said that I have stuck loosely to the idea of using dark colours, although have not developed it further, as has this film done. Although the colours in the graveyard scene are dark to some extent, they are not as dark as expected in a genre of thriller, therefore this could be said to be counter-convention. Many thrillers are also set at night time. Although my graveyard scene was set when the sun was when the sun was passing, it was not when it was completely dark. Therefore, I loosely stuck to this convention as it was starting to become darker. The way I presented my title in my opening sequence for On 3 was very similar to the way many thriller films present their titles. I presented my title with white lettering against a black background. It slowly appeared in a continuous motion, accompanied with the loud ambient sound of winds howling and the heightened note of the build-up of suspense of the drone effect. I also introduced a bright white flash with the sound of a camera click before the font was introduced to suggest the antagonist stalker and his camera once again. I added this to create one last impact for the viewer and to catch them off guard, and to feel like what it would have been like for the main character who had a picture taken for so long without realizing. Especially as there is, I added this to create one last impact for the viewer, especially as there was a plain black background before the flash appeared, implying the viewer was caught off guard by the bright flash and hopefully would have been startled by this effect. This is a clear convention in the thriller genre, as the titles are often shown after the protagonist realizes the horror of what has happened, and the titles are usually accompanied by dramatic music, as mine was.